My name is Hannah Stewart, and I'm a junior at Western Kentucky University. I am currently studying psychological sciences with a minor in social work, and today I will be discussing William James. William James was born January 11th, 1842, in New York City, New York. While he was born in New York, he spent his childhood alongside his four siblings, Henry Jr., Garth, Robertson, and Alice, traveling throughout Europe, living in places like Geneva, London, Paris, and Dresden. Their father, Henry James Sr., pictured below, was an American theologian that believed that traveling abroad would provide his children with a richer education. The children were privately tutored as they were traveling, making them fluent in multiple languages and well versed in both the sciences and the arts. James continued his education at Harvard in 1861, where he studied chemistry and biology. After his undergraduate studies, he entered Harvard Medical School. James had struggled with physical and mental illnesses throughout his academic career, leading to his interest in psychological processes. During his academic career, he took a break from 1867 to 1868 and traveled to Germany, where he studied experimental physiology and psychology. James eventually earned his medical degree in 1869 but never practiced medicine. Later on, James died on August 26, 1910, in Chokra, New Hampshire. James's time in Germany significantly influenced his interest in physiology and psychology. He was particularly interested in the scientific study of the mind and body, more specifically the nervous system, sensations, and our perception. James studied with prominent European scholars like Hermann Helmholtz and William Wundt, who later founded experimental psychology. This exposure introduced James to experimental methods for studying mental processes, which were largely absent in American education at the time. James also read the works of Kant, Hegel, and Schopenhauer, which later influenced his physiological writings. In 1872, he joined the Harvard faculty as an instructor of physiology. In 1875, he began teaching the first psychology course at an American university. James also established a small psychological laboratory, which helped lay the groundwork for experimental psychology in America. At this time, he marked the birth of psychology as an academic discipline in the United States, which is why he's known as the father of psychology. William James, the Principle of Psychology, 1890, is considered one of the most influential texts in the history of psychology, as it helped establish psychology as a scientific field in the United States. James introduced the concept of the stream of consciousness, describing thought as a continuous, ever-changing flow rather than a series of disconnected ideas. This idea moved away from the structured view of the mind and opened a door to a more dynamic understanding of it. James also laid the groundwork for functionalism, which emphasized the purpose of mental processes. It explained how they help individuals adapt and function in their environments, which it aligned closely with the evolution theory. Another major contribution was the James Lange theory of emotion, developed alongside Carl Lange, who's pictured right here. This theory proposed that emotions arise from physiological responses to external events. So, according to this theory, our body responds to a situation first, and then our brain interprets those physical changes as an emotion. Beyond psychology, James had a profound influence on physiology, particularly as a founder of pragmatism, and on education, where his ideas promoted a more flexible, experimental approach of learning. His work bridged science, physiology, and human experience in a way that continue to resonate today. William James lived during a time when psychology was going through a big transformation. In the 1800s, it was starting to shift from being just a branch of physiology to becoming a real science based on research, observation, and experimentation. One of the biggest influences on James' thinking was Darwin's theory of evolution. It was published in 1859 and introduced the idea that all living things adapt to survive. James took that concept and applied it to the human mind. This became the foundation of his functionalist view, where he focused on how mental processes help us function and thrive in the world around us. At the same time, the Industrial Revolution was changing how people lived and worked. It raised a big question about behavior, productivity, and what it meant to be human. Fast forward to today, and we can still see his influence everywhere. His focus on adaptation shows up in clinical psychology, helping people build coping skills and resilience. In education, his ideas support flexible student learning. James also helped shape both cognitive and behavioral psychology, two of the most widely used approaches today. And what's really impressive is how his wide-ranging, open-minded way of thinking is still used in fields like neuroscience, philosophy, and even going to be used in artificial intelligence. William wasn't just ahead of his time. He helped create a foundation for psychology for the future to come. Here's a list of references for any more inquiries you might have about William James. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation.